Did you know 80% of innovations fail because of skyrocketing costs? Imagine your brilliant idea turning into a costly disaster. But what if there's a way to avoid that? Let me tell you about Max, an engineer who faced a similar challenge. He created a complex solution, a tapered disc held by 100 magnets that worked perfectly but was incredibly expensive. Then Max realized that sometimes simplicity is better. He switched to a basic steel plate, cutting costs by 90%. The lesson? In innovation, less can be more. Focus on what truly matters, and you'll find success. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights.